Hey everyone, welcome to a ranked post-game commentary. What I've done here is recorded a ranked game, and I didn't record myself talking or anything like that. I kind of just played the game out as I saw fit, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm actually watching this game with you as you are watching it now. I'm just going to be watching this and talking about things that I see, reasons that I chose this, things that my team could have done better to win the game or lose the game, things that the enemy team could have done better or anything like that. So we're going to start out here with basically ranked item choices. A lot of people will always pick up Hand of the Gods. It's pretty much standard. If you're not going to be going to the mid lane, you kind of need to be picking up the Hand of the Gods just because it gives you so much early game control. You need to be able to leave and pick up buffs. You need to contest buffs if they're doing the same thing. You need to be able to push the wave. Like, let's say they're clearing waves faster than you, which means their archers aren't dying, which means that their archers are building up. You may get waves where, you know, there's 6 to 8 ranged minions coming up on you. You can easily just walk up and use Hand of the Gods on that to prevent a push. So it's very, very important. Until they do something with the Hand of the Gods, it's very important that if you are playing a ranked game or any game where you really want to take it seriously, if you're not in the mid lane, you really should have a Hand of the Gods on you. There's no maximum benefit that you're going to get from a tier 2 item or 2 tier 1 items that outweighs the fact that you're going to have Hand of the Gods. So what's going on here is I'm actually covering the green. The monkey and mid are going to be covering blue for us. I'm going to be covering the green, just making sure that there's no one going to be coming in. And they didn't come over there, so I'm watching the lane now. I saw that they weren't rushing over there. They didn't get there in time, so I'm just going to cover the lane since they're covering the jungle side. And I just want to make sure that what we want to do as a team, actually, is just to make sure that we have eyes in all directions. I want to make sure that if they're going to invade, that we know ahead of time and we can call it. It's very important to work together and have knowledge. I mean, eyesight is more important than a lot of things. If people are... games are won and lost by ward vision and information about where they're pushing and when they're going to push and stuff like that. By the way, this is live. I am commentating on this live, so this isn't going to be totally scripted. I am going to say and stuff like that, but I am just watching the game. I'm not going to be playing it, so I'm not fully distracted. So I'm going to let the monkey get the blue here. The mid's helping out just in case they come in. And what we did here is we split the experience between all of us while we did the blue. And now we've got some kind of aggression coming in here. I'm being pressured by Hades and 100's pushing the lane. So now what we want to do is going to go over to the green and they're going to let me get the green so I can take a lot of hits and we can force some early aggression with that green. So I'm going to grab that green, but what we want to do is make sure that we split the experience again. We want to make sure that we all get those experience so we can have that group advantage over them on the enemy lane. So what I'm doing here is I'm just pushing the green because I know monkey's on his way. But I'm not going to finish it off. I want to make sure that the monkey gets here in time to get that experience bonus. So I'm going to wait. Step out. Here comes the monkey. When he steps right into experience range, I'm going to go ahead and kill it. That way we both hit level 2. He should have hit level 2 there, but I guess he either he missed it or I got a minion kill in lane or something like that. My item build right now is I picked up the jump and I picked up Gungnir's Might, pretty standard. I won't go for Odin's Shout this time. I could have, but I was looking for more burst. On her and Hades is a pretty strong combo. They can easily just double ult and then stun on her into the Hades ult. We're just trying to make sure that the minions stay off the tower at this point. Just making sure that we hold the lane here. If you have no intentions of getting highly aggressive, which I kind of do, you want to hold the tower or hold the minion wave at your tower. If not, you kind of want to force it. Since I do have the green and monkey has the blue, monkey can easily push. And I'm kind of floating out in front. I basically want to just jump in and force some exchanges. And the exchanges don't even have to be perfect. I just want the exchanges to be something that's either even, slightly disadvantageous, or slightly advantageous for us. Just because I have the green buff, it allows me to easily regenerate all that health back up, whereas they don't have it. So if we come out even slightly behind in an exchange, I'll be able to regen that back up, and then we'll have an advantage. So I'm kind of just floating, taking a few minion shots, kind of forcing some exchanges here. I'm typing out to my teammate to go ahead and take red. When the Hand of Gods come back up in a side lane, you want to go ahead and take a buff. But it depends on the lane. Since they're pushing right now, we can't take it yet. But we planned on leaving and just taking a buff. This lane's very highly aggressive and they're pushing pretty hard. But in a more standard lane, in left or right, you could easily just leave and go grab. So I saw an opportunity here. The minion wave was being pushed out. And their minion wave was dead. So I go ahead and jump onto Hades to do some easy harass. Dropping out about a half HP. So now we have a little bit of an advantage. That way, if Hades does hit level 5 and decides to ult, we can easily take that. I don't think there's anything to be gained here, especially with the on her stun, so I just stay to clear the minion wave. It takes a lot of practice to be able to judge those, but it's really important to be able to say what will happen if I leave and go help. The best thing I could have done for him there is to stop the minion damage he was taking. So now we're heading over here to take over the red, because there's the Hand of the Gods, and then he's going to Hand of the Gods. Easily double take it. He looks like he doesn't have his Hand of Gods up, so we're just gonna wait. I'm really trying to make sure that they don't get that. It looks like I got it. Oh no, On Her got it. We're kind of forcing this here. We don't have any buffs. They have the damage buff, and we're kind of low on... He has no mana. I have some mana. I'm kind of just floating because I don't want him to get totally isolated. If he gets pinned too hard like that, if that hit the wall, then I can stay here. I have the reinforced boots, and I have some healing potions, so I'm not too worried. Plus, I have the defensive bonuses from Gungnir's Might. So I'm just kind of floating and making sure the monkey doesn't get too caught out. Yeah, I'm going ahead and asking him about his Hand of the Gods there because I was expecting both of us to have it up, and I guess he didn't have his up, and that's the reason why we lost that red buff. Just poor communication, but as of right now, you can only solo queue in ranked, so it's bound to happen. My Hand of the Gods is coming up soon here, so I can easily just Hand of the Gods this whole wave. Just hit level 5, picked up my Ring of Spears. This is going to be really important if things break out. We don't really have a huge advantage, but if I can land a good ultimate with me and Wukong in it, then Wukong can easily ultimate himself. Looks like mid's getting pushed, so I told the monkey to go defend mid. I can hold this down myself. Hand of the Gods just came up, so I can easily Hand of Gods this. I won't because it's getting pushed pretty easily by the tower. Looks like they're going to contest the blue. It's really important if you are the solo lane and there's someone jungling that you call the second they leave the lane. You need to be very aware of where the enemy is going because it's so easy for your jungler to get caught off guard and just backstab from behind by your lane because you weren't paying attention. The second they leave, and if they're leaving together especially, you need to call that immediately. Ping him. He's going to go ahead and ult here. I'm going to go ahead and get a good Gungnir's Might off. I'm trying to focusing the blue so we don't get out here. Getting pinned really hard. I put up the ultimate there. It wasn't really for the block, but when you drop down Odin's Ring of Spears, you go ahead and you get magic protection to physical protection. That's really what I was going for. I wanted to just sustain myself as long as I could. We really shouldn't have engaged there just because we don't have the damage output that they do. Mid's going ahead and complaining here. I'm just being a jerk. I might cover up the chat. If you guys don't see chat right now, I just decided to go over and cover that up post commentary after my commentary. I don't know. There's some trash talking that goes in here, and I'm trying to work on my professionalism, make sure I don't talk trash about people or expose anyone's names in these videos. Be as anonymous if I can, if it's detrimental to their personal character or anything like that. So I see an opportunity here. I'm full HP, full mana. Hades is low, and I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. The monkey is not helping, unfortunately. I could have used a voice chat command or something like that to let him know I wanted to go. I go ahead and question the monkey there. I could have gone in. We could have gotten something there just because I was full HP and I have my reinforced boots level 2, so I have good regeneration. And they're out of cooldowns and out of mana. On Her has enough for an Impale and possibly a wall, an obelisk, but I'm not too concerned. Just to go ahead and state it, this game was a very rough game and a very long game. I'm not going to say who won, but I'm going to let you know that this was a very rough game for everyone involved. And I'm just going to go ahead and post this up just because I feel like these close, rough games or games where I'm struggling, I leave a lot of room for commentary. So right there, what happened was I pulled the lane together, the minions together, since I had no minions, and I just used all of my AoE at once. The tough part about pushing minion waves when you have minions is the melee and range are so far apart. I'm going to go ahead and do it again here. Since they're clustered up like this, since I have no minions, I can go ahead and do that. I saw On Her heading over into the jungle, so I want to make sure I cover that. Looks like the green is up. I'm going to come down here and get experience for it. I'm going to take it from him, actually. Sometimes it's really important to decide who's going to get what buffs. If you have a lane where, let's say you have a Kali jungling, and then you have like a solo caster like a Zeus or an Ao Kuang or something like that. If the Kali is jungling, she doesn't have a very high need for the mana buff. She can give the mana buff to the caster, and the caster can then go ahead and use that extra mana to maintain the lane while she jungles. There's some junglers that don't use a lot of mana. Kali is one of them. She doesn't have to. Some Kalis get aggressive and use their AoE lifesteal along with their cone attack, but I don't feel it's necessary. Obviously, everyone wants to have extra mana and health regeneration, but it's important to be able to split those buffs. The monkeys put the green buff on me just because I'm a little bit more sustainable. So the green buff plus my sustain allows me to jump in there and get in front, and I can tank for him a lot. So the monkey's going to head over to mid, go ahead and either cover it or pick up the CDR buff, and I recognize this, so I need to get back as far as I can. Just play very safe. He's going to go ahead and impale that wave. I'm typing a chat again. I'm gonna go ahead and cluster these up on Hand of the Gods, or I'll just Gunners. I'm gonna do both. I probably could have just used my Hand of the Gods there instead of wasting the mana, but hindsight's 2020. So right lane seems like they're pushing pretty hard, doing okay. Hebo is doing poor in the mid lane. He's lost his tower and he's died a few times, but I mean that's okay. It's bound to happen. The mid lane is very tough, especially in ranked games, just because the mid lane is very, very gankable. You're very exposed, and since everyone's a solo queue, not everyone communicates the fact that their lane is missing, so it's very easy to just come up and get ganked. So I hit Hades there to cluster up the minions so I can get a good Gungnir's Might off, and then I push the lane. If you have a good sustain or a good strong AoE to respond with, it's a good tactic to go ahead and hit the enemy god, which will pull aggro from the melee minions, and you can bring them to the ranged minions, which won't move, and you can easily just pick off the whole minion wave and push it. I was going to go ahead and back, but I'm getting free experience here, and I looked at Hades, and I really don't feel like I'm in any danger of dying here, so I'm just going to go ahead and hang out, get the free experience, get the free gold, because there's no pressing need for me to back yet. If something does happen, I won't have the mana to respawn, but that's just something that you take into account. Easily get a push off. Now I can hold this lane here. Monkey's going to go ahead and get the blue, and he might come back for a gank, so I need to be ready for that. As far as item choices go, I like going for Reinforced Boots on Odin just because the sustain is excellent early on combined with your Gungnir's Might. And you can also use it for the CC reduction early on. So I'm going to try and zone a little bit here. I don't have any mana, like I said. This is a problem earlier. I don't have the mana to respond, but I'm just getting in front of the monkey, make sure that he doesn't get focused too hard. I'm weaving through the minions, so any projectiles that come through will hit the minions instead. So now I heard the Happy New Year. I'm going to head back to it just in case they want to stay. When you're in a clustered situation like that, you want to stick together as much as possible. There goes the ultimate. It's unfortunately got picked off there. So I see mid going, so I stop being and I head over to help him out. Hades is on the run. Hebo might pick it up. Hebo does pick it up, which is good. And he's going for on her, which I really feel he shouldn't. I'm really not in a position to help him here, and he's heading into the jungle. The problem with a on her in the jungle, I guess he's not going to go for it. The problem with an on her in the jungle is there's so many close quarters walls for him to pin you to. It's kind of his place to farm, and I guess he's going to go back in the jungle. And again, I don't have the mana or the health to help him with this. The problem is, too, the obelisk is very thin, but also in some of those side lanes, the obelisk is about the thickness of the jungle. And it's very difficult to deal with that. I guess he's on her backed in there. So he's going to go ahead and pick that up. So now I have a Frostbound Hammer, which gives me more health, more sustain, a little bit of damage, and then gives me slow. And what I like to do, I like to get this Frostbound Hammer early on if I'm going for like a bruiser type build for Odin, which it really allows me to kind of just float around in team fights, keep everyone slow, and it allows me to just have CC by getting into someone's face, which is my job anyway as a tank or a brawler. I actually had a few questions about people asking what is the difference between a tank and a brawler or a bruiser. A tank is someone who is designing their item set, their skill set, and their play style around tanking damage. They're just trying to get there to reduce all the damage they take, and they're kind of involving themselves with auras, with all that kind of stuff like Soul Eater for your team, or you can pick up a Void Stone for the enemies. So I'm kind of getting pressured here by on her. I want to be really careful. I'm not really too concerned. I can outrange his ultimate if he decides to throw it out. Hebo's coming in, and again, I'm not at the HP to help him, so I'm not really sure if he wants to go in on this or not. He's calling it and he wants to go, but I'm very low. I could go in on this, but the tower's getting pushed. There's a full wave here. Yeah, there's a full wave here. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. This may have been a misplay by me. It may not have. Like I said, On-Her's very powerful in the jungle, like that. He did absolutely no damage to On-Her. And I probably would have died if I went in there myself. So that was probably a miscall by him. He maybe should not have gone in there with him. But there's not a whole lot you can do about that. A lot of the situations you have to choose for yourself. Is this something you can succeed in doing or not? So I'm grabbing the health buff here, and my Hand of the Gods just came up. I have mana potions, but I'm not too worried about that because I have the green buff too, so my health's going to go right back up. I have really good sustain here. The Hebo is currently talking about how I should have gone in there with him. The Onher's pretty strong right now. He's getting really good farm. He's getting solo experience, and he has a lot of kills, so he has a lot more experience and gold as well. And like I said, tight jungle quarters like that is really, really something that Onher excels at. It's a lot of places for him to pin you to, and his obelisk is very, very effective in the small quarters of the jungle. I'm going to go ahead and run back up here, get a good hit off this. I have enough damage with the Frostbound Hammer for my Gungnir Smite to be able to go ahead and clear the ranged minions, which is nice. And right now I'm just kind of holding down the lane. Monkey's kind of roaming around, getting jungle buffs, which is really important for him. Really increases his farm, his experience gained, and I'm just trying to hold down the lane. I want to keep these minions here, just so the tower doesn't get damaged at all. I want to minimize the amount of damage done to the tower. I'm backing off a bit just because if I cleared the wave it would push, and I recognize my teammates are coming in, so I want to pull them in as far as I can. If I pushed the minion wave, it would have gone way up, and I'd rather fight near my tower than not. So here he comes. That guy went out. I'm waiting for them because they both have leaps, so I don't really want to ult yet. But his leap just got used, so I'm going to go ahead and use the ult. He's going to ult in return. He gets taken down. I don't really have any mana left, and Hebo's kind of going for it, but Onher's just going to get away. And it's really important to recognize that. So a lot of people who have abilities like Odin's Spears or anything like that, or maybe like a Hades ult, you have to recognize what your enemy can do about it. And I noticed that both of them have a leap. Hades and Onher could easily get out of my Odin Spears. So I waited for either one of them to put them on cooldown, or for both of them, or I just waited for some damage to come out. So now we're just kind of hanging out, push this lane a little bit. We need to be careful though, because mid is over here, which means if the second person from the left lane, Hades, comes back, it's a 3v2. I don't have an ultimate, but I have my mana coming back up. I just drank my last mana potion. You can see my skill build is kind of going towards more of a brawler type build. I can get more damage with my leap, more AoE damage. The reason I did this is because you can push the lane with Odin's Shout, but you can also push it with high levels of the leap. And I chose to go for the leap just because since neither of them had enough damage, Onher could, but neither of them had enough damage to take me down. I kind of just went for the high burst to the AoE so I could run out, cluster the minions like I have been, and clearing them before they get to the tower. I'm just playing zone defense right now and make sure the tower doesn't go down. I'm going to go ahead and head into the lane. I'm going to go ahead and grab this this damage buff just because my Hand of the Gods is up. So I see Onher heading towards me, and I assess the situation, decide he can easily leap over the wall. He knows I'm here, so I'm going to get out. It's really important to make this kind of decision when you're playing in a competitive aspect, just because a lot of people, they'll be clearing a buff, they're getting mana buff or something like that, and they see a team fight break out, and they think, well, the mana buff's almost dead, so I need to finish this. But a lot of times you don't have that luxury of time. You need to get there as fast as you possibly can, and leaving the buff, being able to leave a buff before it's done is a very key skill that a lot of top players have, and it's something you need to learn. Right there, I probably would have died just because Hades could have come over the wall or come down below me, and like I said, Onher in the side jungle is very, very powerful. So I looked at him, I saw him through the wall, and I knew he was heading this way, so I kind of backed off and just let him have the buff. That little buff of that small damage increase, since the damage buff is a percentage of your current damage, it's not very effective early on, and it just wasn't worth my death or my losing HP, so I couldn't defend the lane. So now I'm just kind of playing D. I'm going to wait till the minions come all the way in, and I'm going to try and cluster them up and kill them. I saw an opportunity to go ahead and hit them too, but the tower's going low, so I need to be careful. Another good thing too is if you recognize the tower's going to die, you need to start leaving early, which I'm not doing. Although I do have my leap up, so I'm going to head into the jungle. I really didn't want to run through them into the lane. I wanted to go around them just because if you have someone who has line skilled shots like Onher, his Impale, you want to be cutting corners constantly so that they don't have line of sight of you. If I had run straight through, Hades could have easily gotten me, or Onher could have impaled me because I'm way open into the I'm wide into the open, so it's very easy for people to land lined skill shots on me. Sorry. Ugh. I've actually been playing ranked all day, and it's very exhausting. I feel like I say this in a lot of my videos, but it really is. Solo ranked is just so intense. The problem is like when you play ranked right now, if you have not played a lot of ranked, you lose a lot of rating or gain a lot when you win and lose. So you kind of just go up and down. So now we're kind of grouping up a little bit, which is really important because it's about that time. We're getting towards the 20-minute mark, and it's about that time where you've already gotten the farm you're going to get from the lane, and they're going to start grouping up and going for objectives like they are now. We recognize that Bakasura is heading for this gold free, which they actually got. So we need to group up a little bit here. I'm holding onto my spears, and I look down and I can see that my mana is not very full. So I don't have enough mana to use all my abilities. So I need to make sure that I save my abilities, save my mana for enough for a ring of spears. So we cut that corner really tightly there so I don't get hit by that. That's I love that. Hebo just ulted out, which means we're not really set to do this team fight here. I'm using my Hand of the Gods just to clear the minions, just so the minions are dead. I mean, really need to make sure we have no minions here if this fight's going to happen. We don't really have much. I'm low on mana. I have enough just for a ring of spears. Hebo just uses ultimate, hits us down. And if you look up at the top left corner of the screen, the little U triangle or diamond next to the player's name, that lets you know if their ultimate is up. You can see that the only people that have ultimates right now currently are the Anubis and the Ymir, which we could have used effectively, but it's not really worth the risk. Hebo is our highest level currently, and he didn't have his ultimate, so... and what I'm noticing right now is I really should open the scoreboard more often. You can see how Hell went for a Doom Orb, so she's very focusable. Bakasur is getting a lot of farm, which is going to be a huge problem. And I guess in my next ranked game when I'm recording, I'll open the scoreboard as much as I can so that I can talk about it. And I noticed that we didn't have any vision and that we're getting to that point where we're going to be going for objectives. So I go ahead and head back and pick up some wards. It's really important to do this when you're not in a hard carry role. Like let's say you're the only magic damage dealer. Like let's say we didn't have Anubis, we had a physical damage dealer. Hebo needs to be farming a lot. And since we only have the monkey, monkey really needs to be farming a lot. But everyone else really needs to be buying wards. They're very cheap. They're 50 gold each. They last for 3 minutes. And there's no limit to how many you can buy. There's a limit to how much you can carry, but no limit to how much you can buy. So I'm kind of waiting here out of line of sight in case they decide to go in. I can easily jump in, do some AoE, drop my spears down. But they didn't get. They got the tower, which I did not notice. That's something I could have been more careful about. So I got to use my beads to get the slow off. I'm going to jump back and hide behind the minions. I'm going to get ulted. But they used a lot there to go ahead and take me down. And for some reason... I'm a little frustrated. The right lane is pushing up as hard as they can, but we only have 2 up there. So I guess this could have been better if we got the Phoenix. But they were diving kills and stuff, so... it could have been a lot better. Mistake I made there, number 1, is I didn't check the tower health. I guess since there were 4 of them there in a full minion wave, they could have easily taken down that tower, which is something that I didn't recognize beforehand. It's really important to plan out your abilities and how the teamfight's going to go before you jump in like that. It's also important to know that you have the advantage before you use your escape mechanism to initiate. And I also should have checked where my teammates were and all that stuff. That was just poor awareness by me. I didn't play all that well this game, but that also makes it for some great commentary. So at this point I'm 0-2, but I'm covering up, and I've been holding the lane as long as I can. The fact that there's been 3 to 4 of my lane since the 8-minute mark, and I'm holding it mostly by myself. It's pretty good that I held it this long. We lost the Phoenix just because they 4-pushed left, and we decided to go right and push that up, and we didn't get the Phoenix. So that exchange was very, very good for the enemy team. Something they did there, they possibly had wards up, or they recognized the fact that we were scattered and all alone, and they wanted to group up and push. Like I said, past the 20-minute mark or around that area, it's really important that your team groups up and sticks together. A lot of people have this idea where they need to get that last farm, or they need to get all the buffs on the map if they're a jungler, but at this point in the game, there's no more need for any of that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this CDR. I'm making sure that Hebo doesn't take it, just because it looks like he's kind of floating. I need to take this up, and I need to head over to Ra, because Ra's here. There's the ult. I might ult this, and I do. So there's that. Monkey comes in. Hades' ult is down and Ra's dead. But we need to be careful here because we got on her coming up on the left. So I back up a little bit. Hebo got a little bit too aggressive there. And we're kind of on the back foot. We have 1 down and they have 1 down. So at this point, we probably should just back and defend. It's really important to be able to recognize that. If you look behind us, we really don't have far to go. We have a far distance to run before we can get back to base and defend it. And I'm kind of make sure that the objectives are warded. What I did right there is I knew the Fire Giant was down, but it wasn't down on our map. So I ran into the Fire Giant, cleared the icon, and that way when the Fire Giant respawns, we'll be able to see the icon. It's really important to do that as well, especially as a jungler or just anyone who's passing by. If you recognize that a camp is cleared, but not on your minimap, go ahead and step inside and make sure that icon disappears. That way, when it does respawn, you'll be able to know from far away without having to check it. There are specific timers to the buff minions, but it's a lot easier just to do that, because they are pretty reliable, the icons. So I'm kind of coming here. It looks like Ymir just got pinned. I'm going to try and come in as fast as I can. I'm baiting him in a little bit, which is poor to the expense of Ymir, but hopefully this is enough interruption. There's a good wall by Ymir, but it's not going to be enough. And as you can see, they're diving our base, but we're not really getting too much out of this. I blocked him in with the Minotaur just because the Minotaur does a lot of damage. Got that kill off. I'm just trying to defend as well as I can. I'm zoning out on her from the right side. I probably should not have jumped out here, but I'm trying to just get our team to rally up. And with me in the front, it's very easy to do. I'm heading back to heal up, just because it's really good to disengage and heal after every fight. So we're under a lot of pressure here, and we really need to group up and get focused on one person. Bakasura is a poor target because he can leap, but his leap's down now. When you're in a situation where you feel like you can't kill them when they're in your base, then your number one priority becomes clearing minions, just so your Minotaur doesn't get attacked anymore. So I'm coming in from the flank. I have a good beat on them. Trying to dodge as many abilities as I can. Get a good slow off. Not committing too hard, I'm kind of just getting in their way. Make sure the Minotaur gets the attack speed buff. The Minotaur did clear that up. It's really important to go ahead and use that when you're on Odin. Really good cleanup there. They dove really far and they stayed for a little bit too long. That was the mistake they made. What you can do when you're forcing a fight like that, or you're going after the Minotaur, is you can go ahead and check the scoreboard and make sure you know when key targets are getting up. I would say key targets on our team would definitely be the Monkey and Hebo. Possibly Odin, because I have very good control. And you see how I have that ward up, so I know they're not at Fire Giant. And I cleared the icon, so since the icon is on the minimap currently, then we know that the Fire Giant's back up. So I go ahead and call my team and tell them to go over and get up here. Hebo is pushing the right lane, and is one of the reasons why we had a tough time this game, is no one really wanted to group up. I'm waiting for Hades to come all the way in, just because I want to make sure I bait him as far as I can. Mummify came out, but I know his leap's down now, so I'm going to go ahead and drop my ultimate, try and take him down. The mistake that Anubis made there is he threw out his Mummify before Hades uses his leap. It's really important if you're going up against someone who has a leap that you wait for them to use it if you're using any key things, unless you know that you can control them. A lot of times when I'm playing Arachne and I'm up against someone who can leap, I'll go ahead and jump on their head and make sure they can't leap so that my teammates can land those key CCs. So I'm spamming the chat here trying to get my teammates to group up. We know they're pushed back. They're nowhere near us, and I have good vision up with my ward, so I want to make sure that we force this Fire Giant as fast as we can. If you look at the minimap, there's a ward right above us, so you know if they come in from the jungle above us, then we'll be able to know. So it's looking like we're going to take a free Fire Giant here, which is really good. If you see these kind of opportunities, you know the enemies are nowhere nearby, then go ahead and call for your team to group up. A lot of times people don't have a caller. We need to retreat here because they're coming in, and that's what that ward does for us. That group up button is just like the only thing I spam. It's really important. Like 26 minutes, we should never be apart. Should just be grouping and forcing objectives and trying to take things. We had this Fire Giant as well. Another big mistake that a lot of teams make is they feel that if they get the Fire Giant, that they have to use it for something. The problem is once you have the Fire Giant buff, as long as you have it, the enemy doesn't have it, and that's a win by itself. If a fight does come out, I'm kind of taking on this Bakasura because my teammates are coming close. There's a Ra behind us. Trying to be careful of myself, regenerate a little bit. So yeah, like I said, a lot of teams make the mistake of thinking that since they have the Fire Giant buff, they have to use it for something, otherwise it's wasted. But it's never really worth it to force a fight just because you have a buff and you don't want to waste it. A lot of times people will still wipe themselves, or they'll try and force something too much, and they'll end up losing the fight and losing all the buffs and stuff like that. And like I said, you having the Fire Giant buff, your team having the Fire Giant buff, and the enemy not having it is a win in and of itself. And if something does happen, then you have the advantage, but there's no reason to force it. Just because you have a buff doesn't mean you need to have a team fight. Unless the team fight's advantageous. That's what we need to look for. So we're coming behind here, we're trying to force this thing out. It's a good ultimate coming out there. I'm trying to ulting this out, trying to isolate them. The good thing about those spears there is On Her can't shoot through them, so the only person he could shoot was me, but he wasn't shooting at me. His Desert Fury would go through it, but that's not something that I was really too concerned about. So we spread out there, which was really poor for us. We had a bit of an advantage there with the Fire Giant buff and the fact that I got a good ultimate off, but we just spread out immediately. Right now I'm kind of under pressure. I'm trying to just use my ability items to buy time for my team to come. It's a good wall by Ymir. It's unfortunate there that the monkey and the Anubis died, and that's just because some of us went down, some of us went up, some of us went right. I mean, we just scattered. It's really important that you don't chase anything. A lot of people will get this idea where, you know, you get someone low, you can just chase them. But a lot of times if you get someone low, that just means they're out of the fight. If they decide to come back, they might die just from AoE. So staying as a team and focusing the same target and just staying grouped makes you a lot harder to pick off. And there's a lot of assassins. I'm shaking my head at Hebo right now because I don't think he should be over there. Especially with that HP. So the hell's gonna be coming in here. I'm trying to farm up as much as I can, trying to make sure I take care of what I need to take care of. As you can see here, I went for Cheen's Blades just because this is not something I would commonly go for, but it's really good on the Bruiser build. Just because I have the slow and with the attack speed and the fact that I can have the proc chance to reduce or do damage based on their health, percentage of their health, makes it so I can do some pretty high damage without having to have the items for it. So I'm telling everyone to group up. We can go for the Gold Fury here. And it's really key to go ahead and ward these key spots. As you can see there, I saw that ward, but I'm going to go ahead and run by it. This is a big fight coming in here. I'm kind of zoning out Hell here. I'm not hoping to kill her. I just want to make sure she's out of the fight. That makes Hades fight my whole team all at once, although they did get taken down. Anubis got a good ultimate off there. I'm going to go ahead and spear so On Her can't hit anyone with his projectiles. Basically just buying time for my team's cooldowns to come back up. Those spears were mainly just to make sure On Her didn't kill Sun Wukong. He did use his Desert Fury, but that wasn't enough. And here comes Bakasura. Ymir's going to get his ultimate off. I'm basically just trying to stand in front and make sure the squishies don't get targeted too much. Looks like we got a Ra right on our tail. This monkey doesn't look like he's going to get out. I'm trying to get that slow off. Zoning in. I'm taking a few shots from Bakasura, but my main job as a tank and bruiser is just to be in the way. And that's what my goal to do here is. The problem is like we don't really have a lot of damage. A lot of our damage dealers are dying a lot at key points, or they're diving for kills. And that's really hurting us. But I'm just kind of doing my job as a bruiser, trying to get in the way, block a lot of abilities. I use like I said, I used my spears in that fight to block On Her from doing most of his damage. Come in here, trying to clear this wave up. So our number one problem here was grouping up, which is going to be pretty common for a lot of games. Your team just not getting together in time or in the right places. That's pretty much the biggest problem that pubs have, especially when everyone's solo queue, is just sticking together. Our Hebo, unfortunately, was very poor sport this game and just targeting people and talking a lot, and that just really brings down the morale. The problem is that Bakasura got really fed, and he's going to be pretty strong this whole time. What you can do is, if you know they're warding, you can ward inside there. On my way. Retreat. This was a bugged ward. I gotta take that ward out. Since I'm warding around, to make sure I always have wards. Get that slow off. We're gonna get a good mummify. That was a good pick there. So what I did is I made sure I hid behind the wall so Bakasura did not see me until I get my slow off. And by then, the mummify came off. And I just pushed in this lane now. Things to be cautious about are Hades' ultimate. And definitely beads really helps with that. And just being spread out. We're going for the Fire Giant here just because we know they have a lot dead. I'll turn around and help him out here. An enemy has been slain. He's gonna ultimate here. This is a mistake by a lot of players that I've seen. If you feel like you're gonna die no matter what, and you have zero chance of killing anyone, Hades really should have saved his ultimate there because it won't be up when he comes back alive. A lot of times people will just spam out their abilities because they think they're gonna die, so they're worried about it. So now we have On Her on the run here. We know that he doesn't have any of his cooldowns. He just uses Impale. He just uses Desert Fury. I was gonna go ahead and go for spears there, but my team was not behind me. It's really important to train yourself. If you're about to go in on an engagement or to fight someone, look up to the minimap really quick and see if your teammates are with you. A lot of times they won't be. So I'm kind of just floating here, playing some good D. I want to hide out of sight so they come in and commit, and then I can easily just use my ult. Now they're trapped in here with me and Ymir. Unfortunately, there's no damage coming out from anyone else, but I do decent damage, so I'm not too worried. A lot of times people will just jump out, and when in these tight quarters, especially around Fire Giant, it's really important to spread out and make sure that you're not all in the same corridor, but you're still together to help each other out. I've seen teams get wiped by Bakasuras, or even I've seen an Anubis just use his Death Gaze down a corridor and just kill an entire enemy team. Just because around these corridors it's just really, really tight, and a lot of people will chase a kill. So a lot of what you're seeing me do, and this is a ward here I go ahead and picked off. If you put wards in common areas, you can go ahead and find their wards if they're deciding to ward, which in ranked games a lot of people will. See how I have my wards everywhere. I made an effort to go ahead and ward ahead of us, where that ward is, where you just saw, to make sure that we had a good significant warning before they headed over to Fire Giant if we decided to do it. More chat. And at this point, I think I really need to go for more defense and tank, but I'm just concerned about my team doing enough damage. So there's another free ward. I've taken out about 5 or 6 wards this game, which is easily 300 gold. Not bad. Kind of pays for itself. You don't get the gold for killing them, but you do deny them the vision, which is really important. It's really important. It sounds kind of weird, but it's important to be very obnoxious when you're doing this. My ward spotted about 3 or 4 of them heading over to left lane. So I go ahead and spammed it just because a lot of people get really intent on what they're doing or focusing or anything like that. And nothing's going to happen here. We don't have enough to do anything, so I go ahead and head back and grab some more wards. It's important to go ahead and head back to the base and heal up in between fights and engagements, just to make sure you're always full HP, you're always full mana, you're always ready to respond when you're needed. If you float around and you're farming too much, you don't have any mana, and something decides to happen, like what happened early on in the game for me, I really didn't have the mana to go ahead and defend that. So I went ahead and picked up a mid-guardian mail, which is really, really important against physical carries. If I get hit by On Her or Bakasura, it'll have the chance to slow their movement speed. I'm warding in the camp just in case they do a corner ward, they won't be able to see me. Anubis really shouldn't be here with me. The only reason I'm up here is because I'm pretty tanky and I have a leap. And I'm pretty confident when I'm warding. So these wards are giving us really good vision, really good control. Unfortunately, Hebo is farming the jungle right now, so we really need to group up.
Go back home, pup, and tell them to come fight the opponent. My raven shall feast on eyeballs and entrails.
I'm just baiting them here. I really want them to come down because if they do, they can easily get flanked by the 2 teammates I had there. Oh, Hebo's kind of going in. So my goal here is just trying to control the team fight's positioning. If I can, use myself as bait to force them into a poor position. Really coming too far to attack an Odin when I have teammates waiting in the wings is really effective, just because I can trap them in with my teammates. When you're using your spears as an Odin, it's really important to only trap a few people. You never want to trap the whole game in with your spears, because it's going to be a very clustered team fight, and there's teammates like Hebo who easily fall to AoE. So what you want to make sure you do is you go ahead and trap 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 enemies in your spears. Block the others out, so that way you have a forced team fight with your teammates. And you can also take stock of who has what. I mean, a lot of people have things that can go through Odin's spears, like On Her. So I got the spear offs there. I see that On Her's out, so I go ahead and drop those spears. And I'm really low here, I can't really take much, so I'm just going to go ahead and get out. That was a poor fight by us, and that was pretty poor spears by me. That was poor positioning. We're doing okay as far as the cleanup, but they're just really far ahead in farm, and our team isn't really cooperating too well, so that's a big problem for us. So we see Hell in here, and we get a good wall off, but again, we need to commit together. So I shouldn't have gone in there. I was very low, and I know Hell does a lot of AoE, so it was really important for me to not go in there, but I did anyway, and that's why I died. And they shouldn't be there mid. And I'm just spamming the voice chat, making sure they get out. They stayed way too long. My mistake was going in. when I was too low, but their mistake was staying around too long. They have a lot of sustain with Hell. That was a really good obelisk by Onher. His Onher was really good. He impressed me all game.
An ally has been slain.
What I would do if I was Wukong right now is I would just go ahead and sneak around and try and split push them, just backdoor. There's nothing really he can do to defend this. I mean, he can use his Hand of the Gods and push the waves, but they have a lot of damage and they're very far ahead. So he's doing his best to clear the minions. They have nothing to shoot the Phoenix with. But this Phoenix is going to go down no matter what. There's nothing really to do there. And that's exactly what I mean. He stuck around too long and they had too much damage. There's not a whole lot he could have done there. He ended up dying. So I'm just buying more wards, making sure I get much side as I can, and just being as tanky as I can. I went for a bruiser build early on, and then I kind of transitioned into a tank build. Shows the scoreboard. We're behind by a little bit. I have a lot of assists just because I'm forcing team fights and getting good positioning and a lot of good ultimates. At this point, we're definitely far behind. They have a Phoenix down, and what happens when they have a Phoenix down is you really need to take care of that lane. Just because if you don't watch it, it'll push all on its own. I'm pushing these just because it's free money. I can one-shot both the creeps. But that mid lane just needs to get pushed. Before you do anything, like let's say this situation right now, since we have a Phoenix down, what we really should be doing is pushing the mid lane up before we do anything objective-wise. So let's say we want to go get the Fire Giant or we want to go get Gold Fury. What we need to do is push the lane up, the mid lane, at least to half the map. Just because if we leave it alone too long, it'll end up pushing. And the problem with the Minotaur is he does good single target damage, but he doesn't do any AoE damage. So it'll just take him a long time to work through Phoenix minions. And I've seen a lot of games lost because people aren't watching a lane that had a Phoenix down. And hopefully this commentary is a little bit better for you guys than my standard. I know I had my ranked game where I just played and didn't talk. And I got a lot of feedback on that. And it seemed like you guys really enjoy the commentary more than just watching me play. So I try to put as much commentary on this one as I can. And like I said, I'm just watching this as you're watching it. What I did there is I knew I was recording, so I go ahead and I circled the scoreboard. My teammate said that we were ahead, so I looked up and I circled the amounts. We're behind by about 12k. So it's pretty bad. I'm still warding up, telling my team to group up, kind of floating around, keeping sight on the enemy, putting as many wards as I can up, just because I want to make sure we know where they are. So they're going to be pushing the right lane. We need to group up here. But it's good that we're pushing this mid lane up just because it has Phoenix minions in it. Retreat, defend is what I'm spamming. We need to be very together on this one. This is pretty much going to make or break the game what happens in this next team fight. Trying to get this Hebo to come back, but he just decides he wants to be... Sometimes it's necessary to do this. Thing is, like, he was behind them, so if they decided to turn around, there's nothing we could do to stop it. I'm kind of just waiting for a good opportunity to spears, and for my teammates to be in position. So they just showed up and decided to go in. So right there's I trapped 3. There goes the ultimate. I dropped my amulet. One mistake I made there is I didn't wait long enough for them to come in. I think my teammates were a little bit far out. They weren't together with me. So you need to trap key targets in with the spears. You have to realize that not everyone can go through the spears. So that lost team fight probably was my fault. We could have done a lot better if I had landed a better spears. Playing Odin and getting good spears off is a very delicate situation. Making sure that the right people are inside it with you. And also bringing them down when you miss or you don't have people trapped. So at this point we have 2 dead and only 3 alive, and they have most of them. They have 2 Phoenixes down, and I'm just doing my best to zone here. Never giving up on this game. I never give up in ranked games. I never surrender either. I try to get the best out of the game. The game's not over until the Minotaur's dead. So I'm just waiting here. My spears are up in about 18 seconds, and I'm just waiting for as long as I can. I'm using the Minotaur to block projectiles, and I'm just kind of jumping in and just scaring them. Just trying to get them as far back as I can. I have my Odin shout up on the Minotaur, so if I can trap them in 5 seconds, I'll probably get a kill or 2. But I want them to focus me, not the Minotaur, but that's just too late. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. This is my ranked post-game commentary. I'm going to get better at this after as much as I practice, but yeah, thanks for tuning in.